Director. So welcome everyone to these chats that we have once a month. And welcome to the bird, I think, that's out there calling to us. So already this week, we've been, I think, to the UK, to Canada. We do California as a whole state because California is a compassionate state. They still are welcome to these meetings. There are 23 cities, compassionate cities in California. And we have the same calls with New Zealand, Australia, India, South Africa. So it's just our way of saying hello to people to find out what might be their interest and what's happening in their communities. The other thing that we try and do is just let you know what's happening with the charter. And I'm thinking that I'd love to quickly go around. I know there's like so far 20 of us, but if we could just go around and we could just say our names, and obviously you are putting in the chat where you're from, but if there's anything particular you would like us to know about you, an association, organization that you're connected with, that would be wonderful. And if we can keep it at 30 seconds, that would be great, because we're really honored today to have two people with us, Sadina and George Caponelli. And one of the things that the charter does is we do a lot of collaborating. And we've invited George and Sadina to present something that we've been involved in with them. Gosh, what do you think? 8, 9 months, around that. And so the program is going to be launched in May, and we wanted everyone to get a little bit of a preview about the program, and also might be an opportunity for you to begin to think about how you might use that program. But I'm going to stop talking about that. So first, we're just going to go around real quickly. And I'm Marilyn Turkovich, the Executive Director of the Charter for Compassion. And I already indicated that I'm in Kingston, Washington, and it's somewhere between Seattle and Vancouver. So let's just go Merida, and then Sherry, and then Renee, and that'll be our top group.
Okay, so thank you, Marilyn. So I'm Merida McCarthy. I'm Program Coordinator for Charter for Compassion, and I'm logging in from Monterrey, Mexico. So I'm not that far from the US, but I'm not in the US. And I'm very glad to be here and see you all here. So
I'm Sherry from Rochester, Michigan, and this is the first time I've come to this group, and I really don't know much about it.
I'll just keep it. Renee, why don't you go next? You're in the top line there.
Okay, I'm Renee Jones from Philadelphia. Just returned here after spending some time in St. Augustine, Florida. And I have to tell you, I'm pretty overwhelmed here in Philadelphia because I just don't know where to start.
Okay, that's reasonable in the day and age in which we live. Colleen.
Hi, I'm Reverend Colleen Dara, and I'm with Metropolitan Community Churches, and we are an international denomination, small but mighty in our own ways. We are partnered with the Charter, but this is my first meeting, so I look forward to hearing what you all are up to and how we can collaborate.
Okay, good, great. John?
Yeah, hi there. I'm John Audiello. I live in Boston area, Massachusetts, and this is also my first meeting, so I'm just staying open-minded.
Great. I hope we don't rock the boat by doing something controversial. Henry.
You soon.
There you go.
Hello. I'm in Charlottesville,
And my organization is Meetings of Opposites. I was the first one to get it in the chat, the website. So look that up. And what I will do is bring to your city a workshop designed to produce the actual experience of common ground among people whose opinions are irreconcilable.
Maybe you'll come.
Thank you. David Llewellyn.
Hi, I'm calling from Southwest Florida. I think this is my first time calling in as well. I'm on the board of a local initiative called the Roots of Compassion and Kindness at Florida Gulf Coast University. And we're looking to partner and collaborate to carry the message.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. George.
Hi, George, and I'm calling in from West Bend, Wisconsin, just outside of Milwaukee. And it's my first time joining here too.
Well, welcome. You look like you have a Northwest sky. So I was kind of thinking you were going to say Bend, Oregon or something, but Diane. Diane, are you in a car?
I'm sitting in my car at the post office. I have just, I found the update and I said, I think I better sit here for a bit and get in on the call. Well, it's been many, many moons. And I started up when I found out via Sandy Hart about compassion or the Charter for Compassion.
So,
And
are you
so
in
I just,
California?
pardon me?
Are you in California?
No, I'm just east of Seattle. I'm in Redmond.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've been here for over 6 years. So I'm just had a hint that maybe I should plug in and see what's going on.
Okay,
I
great.
guess it's been a long time.
Great. Thanks so much. Christopher.
Hello, all. I'm joining from Las Vegas, Nevada. I teach writing, poetry, world lit at University of Nevada, Las Vegas. And it's my first time, so I don't know much about the charter or where I first heard about the charter. But yeah, I got an email, so I'll hop on to that. So.
Great. Well, Las Vegas is certainly one of our more active, compassionate communities. So welcome. Christine.
Hello, I'm Christine. I live in Los Angeles. This is also my first time joining. I work at the Global Compassion Coalition, and I work with Rick Hansen, and he got an email about this and was like, you should join this. So here I am.
Well, I'm on that board, so welcome.
Amazing. Nice to meet you.
My evening last night ended with a call with people from the Global Compassion Council from Australia and Mexico. So there's a lot to talk about with that, and maybe we'll even have an opportunity. So Dina and George, I'm going to keep you till the end. Okay, Susie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Susie D'Amico. I live in Colorado. I found about the Compassion Coalition from a blog from Jacqueline Winspear, the writer.
Yes.
Not sure what the coalition does, but I'm all for compassion and cooperating. So I'm interested to see what this is. I'm a bit of a shut-in because of our health issues and where we live. So a lot of my outreach is online and so forth.
Okay. It's wonderful to hear Jacqueline's name. I don't know if many people know her, but she's an incredible writer, has been on New York Times bestseller list 17 times. We had her last year for a global read, and it was probably our most attended global read ever. The archive, if you go into our website, you'll be able to hear her presentation. I just have such great respect for her, and I think she has a new book coming out right now.
It's mailing next week, and I'm waiting by the door.
I know, yeah. Steve.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Steve Kramer. I hail from Seattle, Washington, and I'm a co-lead for the environment sector for the charter. And if any of you are interested in environmental issues, I would love to have a discussion with you, or you can drop in at a sector meeting and check us out. And welcome to everyone that's new.
Great. Thank you, Steve. Elizabeth, and then Susan. Do we go by Susan Ann? Both names? Okay. So Elizabeth, you go first and then Susan Ann.
Thank you. So I'm Elizabeth Rivoli. I'm now in Southern Texas. And I work with an organization, a nonprofit organization called Love, Peace, Harmony Foundation. And so we're always looking for ways to reach out and spread love, peace, and harmony. I would say compassion fits there perfectly.
Absolutely. Well, please tell me before we sign off to tell you about Compassionate Texas, because it is a group of compassionate cities and initiatives in Texas, and maybe we should bring you into that meeting.
Okay.
Okay, Susan Ann.
Yeah, thank you for recognizing both names. I live in St. George, Utah. It's right on the very southwest corner of Utah, right next to Nevada. Red Rock country, beautiful country. I'm incredibly interested in compassion and have been for quite a while. So my first time here.
Okay, great. Nancy.
Grateful to be here. I've been able to be on the chat a number of times. I'm happily ensconced in St. Augustine, Florida, and Arthur Colbert, who's the director of Compassionate St. Augustine, is here with me. And I'm excited to be serving in the role of a liaison, providing information and best practices, among other things, to the members of the community here in St. Augustine. Renee, I'm sorry I missed you here, but I'm grateful to be a part of this and so grateful to have been exposed to the Charter for Compassion a year and a half ago and eagerly learning more.
Okay, great. Catherine.
Hello, I'm Catherine Martins. I live in Pomona, California, which is about 35 miles east of Los Angeles. Pomona has been a compassionate city since 2018. And Marilyn was on our meeting call this morning for Compassionate Pomona. So good to see you again.
Thank you for coming. And Ernest? There you go.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't recognize Ernest, but I am Ernest. Ernest Anemone. I am an attorney, actor, and professional facilitator. I've been spending the last 10 years working with the global law firms and corporations, which generally aren't well known for their compassion or their empathy, but going in there and trying to teach compassion and empathy by having more productive conversations. And I have decided to go back to my roots recently in bringing those tools and attitudes and skills back into the community to promote dialogue and deliberation. So leveraging my background in film, I've wanted to start using short films as a jumping off point, a point of departure for having conversations around critical issues in the community and bringing people together for dialogue and deliberation. And this is my first time joining the chat, but I've been a member of the charter probably ever since I read Karen Armstrong's book, The Case for God. I think I heard about the charter and I signed on, but I'm looking to be inspired by all of you, and I already am. That's the good news. It's lovely hearing everybody's background.
Sure.
And I'm going to be listening, but I'll have to be moving around the house.
Okay, good. Simone?
Hi, everyone. My name is Simone Elise. I'm the Music in Common Marketing and Development Coordinator. We're a nonprofit, a peace-building nonprofit that uses music to bring people together and divide racial bridges. So I'll be jumping off the call in a few. I have a rehearsal because I'm also a musician myself, but my coworker Trey will come on around 5:30. But just wanted to chime in and say hey to everybody and thanks for having me.
Okay, so you must be on the East Coast, and where?
I am. We're based in Atlanta, but the nonprofit does work all across the country, but our office is here in Atlanta.
Okay, great. Before I go back to Sadina and to George, I just wanted to again welcome you and just give you a little bit of information about the charter. I know that if we don't have a visual that would accompany the verbal, that sometimes it will get lost. But I think the best message that I can give you is if you go to the homepage of the charter and forget about the other 9,000 pages behind the home, use that as your roadmap, because everything that you need to know about the charter is really in full view on that homepage, so that there's an event calendar, and every single day where something is happening, you can click on that event calendar and get more information, find out how to link up with us. You'll also have an opportunity to see what are the 12 sectors that we operate upon. And the thing is the charter is both a document, the Charter for Compassion, unveiled at the United Nations in 2009, adopted by the very first adoptee of the Charter for Compassion was the Parliament of Australia, which is a little known fact. But when that was launched at the UN, it was streamed to over 120 countries in the world. Today, the charter is in pretty close to 500 communities. And when I say communities, it could be a mega city, it could be a hamlet in the UK, it could be a village in Pakistan, but we're in about 500 of these places in 54 countries. Our charge, twofold: to try and work with grassroots groups of people who can relate to what's happening in their community. When Karen Armstrong was asked a number of years ago, what's a compassionate city? Her answer was, it's an uncomfortable city. It's uncomfortable because children might go to bed hungry. It's uncomfortable because there's not equal education from one end of town to the next. It's uncomfortable because people are sleeping on out on the street. And, you know, we can go on and on. And when I say that we work with compassionate communities so far around the world, these communities have named 23 areas of concern. So it doesn't mean that there's one compassionate cities working on all 23. No, most compassionate cities work on one or two things. It might be water sanitation, which is what people in Pakistan and Karachi are working on. They're also working on one other big one, and that is working on understanding that there's alternatives to terrorism. We might look at another city that involved, like Pomona today mentioned, about trafficking, human trafficking. And ironically, we added that to our list a number of years ago because of Pomona. I was there for a meeting, and that came up as a grave issue in that community. It also came up as a grave issue in Georgia. It didn't come from another place in the world. And so we have these 23 issues. We've tried to research them. We've looked at UN documents, the World Health Association organization, to come up with what are the parameters to ask every possible question that we can about an issue, so that when people within a compassionate community, Renee, you were saying, I don't know where to start. Well, you know, the thing is that you start by finding people that will listen to you and people who are friends. And then when you begin to really have the dialogue, the next step is pretty easy. You look around the table and you say, who's not here? And that's the important thing. Finding out who's not there. Is it people from another area of town? Is it an age difference? Is it an ethnic difference? And try and bring those people to conversation. The other thing, as a part of that, is to find out what's working well in our community. Who's doing great things? What can we learn from them? How might we even be able to help them? So I'm going to stop about the compassionate communities. But the other, I said we had a twofold path. The second one is education, compassionate education. From the birth of a child, even before the birth of a child, to the time when people might think that, their education is over, but it's just beginning. And so we try and vet programs that are really important to all age groups. And, we're not going to have enough time today to talk about all of those various programs that we have. But in reality, if you go to our navigation bar, you're going to see sectors, and you pull down the menu for those sectors and you'll find out, just as Steve said, he works with the environmental sector. We have arts, business, education, environment, healthcare, peace, religion, spiritual interfaith spirituality for the earth, gender partnerships, science and research, social services, social justice, restorative justice, so that those are our sectors of operation. We have volunteer teams that keep all of that alive. And not only do they keep it alive within the United States, but they keep it alive around the world. And I'm just going to give you one demographic because, I mentioned that we have these calls with one another around the world each month. The charter has right now pretty close to 180,000 people on its mailing list. Of that group, just a little over 19,000 are from the United States. Okay, so we are truly a very international organization. And so when we have these calls, it is so exciting. I was so excited. I was blown away today when I visited the Pomona meeting, because there's so much going on in Pomona. But the good news is that I think the charter is a conduit so that we can take what's happening in Pomona and we can let other cities know about the good things that are happening there so that those other cities can replicate those. So that's just a little bit of background information when so many of you said that this is your first chat that you've come to. So now I want to invite you to meet Sedina and George because there are a number of things that the charter is involved in almost by month. And so in January, February, we did 40 Days of Peace to commemorate the legacy of Martin Luther King. We had 67 presentations in those 40 days. Now we are embarking on 23 Days of Compassion that leads to Golden Rule Day, which is in April. And then in May, and this is where Sedina and George come in. They're going to tell you what's going to happen in May.
Great. I just want to say how really honored we are to be here with all of you. I'm Sedina Caponelli, co-founder of H Nation, which is an organization that supports people in the second half of life with all kinds of wonderful things. We do a lot in media and entertainment and so on. You'll hear about that. I'm also the co-producer of an incredible event called Celebrating Life 2023 and 24 and on. And we're just so totally honored to be with Marilyn, probably the most supportive, engaging collaborator we've ever, connected with. And compassion.org is an amazing organization. So thank all of you. I'm just listening to what all of you are involved in. You're going to be excited to hear about this, and I'll let George talk. We'll tell you about this really exciting event for our focus demographic is people in the second half of life and their families. So tell you more.
George, before you go one step further, I'm reminded now that Susie has put in about Jacqueline Winspear. I can't believe we have not put her on a list for an interview. Because she is so outstanding. So
we were just thinking that that we have to have her. We have to have an interview with Jacqueline. Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Sorry, George. It was just my excitement over seeing her name because I just so admire her.
I think the important thing is that
our work actually, not just people in the second half of life, but we build bridges of understanding to younger people as well. Because we believe that unless those two components of our society reconnect and begin to work together at different levels, we're going to have a hell of a time bringing about the kind of healing and effectiveness that needs to happen. As Sadina said, our work covers a broad spectrum of things, from conferences and books and podcasts and syndicated radio and all of that. We have a series on PBS called Ageless Living. That's a 40-episode series. It's now on Amazon Prime and Tubi as well. And it features 22 leading authors who talk about the concept of living and thriving outside the parameters of time and ageism and all of that.
It's called Ageless Living.
We've been involved in this work for a good while. And as COVID began to unfold and the isolation that impacted older Americans as well as younger people so heavily, we watched the dramatic rise of depression and alcohol and drug addiction, and unfortunately suicide. And we realized that what was needed was a kind of international celebration that would bring together a really significant number of wisdom keepers and authors and thought leaders and musicians and film and documentary makers and luminaries to bring hope and a sense of a possibility back to people around the planet, to let them know that although we are going through an extraordinary time of transition and challenge, there are alternatives, there are strategies, there are insights, there are inspirations that can touch all of our hearts and uplift us. So originally it was going to be a live event at a convention center in Albuquerque and partially hybrid. And then every time the next COVID variant came through, we had to dismantle all the plans and start all over again. And we decided, look, we need to do this globally, we need to do it virtually. And we need to do it on a remarkable platform. And we found one. It's a 3D conference platform that has all kinds of separate auditoriums and rooms and networking centers and whatnot. We've now assembled a cast that's a little over 100 people. Many of them you recognize, a lot of major authors, you know, the Tom Moores and the Mark Nepos and the Greg Bradens and the Joan Bornsenkos and the David Suzuki's and on and on and on. Some interesting authors like Dr. Lisa Miller from Columbia, who does wonderful things on trauma and awakening the brain. And
Mark Nepo, all kinds of people.
Dr. Zach Bush, who's one of the leading innovators in land regeneration. And anyway, endless number of people all doing remarkable work assembled into 3 content tracks, wellness, wisdom, and wonder. And then there's a 4th track, which is our info entertainment track that has a host of wonderful documentaries and short inspiring films on relevant topics, providing solutions to the time that we're living in. So enter Marilyn and her incredible,
thank God,
her incredible collaboration and willingness. And we've dealt with some of the compassionate cities before. Louisville was a city that we did some work with when the mayor was really such a vibrant supporter of compassion. And our goal is to give 9 days of this project as a gift to the world. All of the speakers, all of the content, everything for free. So as many people can benefit from it and enjoy as possible. There is a smaller tail of fundraising that will happen at the end of those 9 days for people that want to have ongoing access to all of the content and material. They'll be able to purchase that ongoing access. And the funds that are raised from that will go through 2 nonprofit organizations here in New Mexico, the Haviland Carter Neighborhood Foundation and Empower New Mexico, and they will fund underfunded age-related projects. As I listen to many of you who are new to your cities or still beginning to figure out what you can do and how you can do it, I believe that if we utilize this gift effectively and people within each of your cities are aware of it, that they can watch it at home, they can watch it in groups, they can watch it 24 hours a day so that they don't have to miss any of the content. It'll be a wonderful way to build a broader constituency in each of your cities, to invite organizations that you're associated with to be part of it. By and by, I just see it as a tremendous win at this particular time. There are other strategic allies that are associated with the project, and they'll be sharing it with their audiences. We've been involved at times in the Age-Friendly Cities project that was created by World Health Organization, and some of the age-friendly cities will be joining us. So
And I just want to say that many of you mentioned organizations, wonderful organizations that you're part of. And that's another opportunity. And, you know, if there's, we're doing a lot of this for senior centers too, giving them this free, and they can create afternoons, you know, of socialization, talk about what they just saw, or, you know, it's a wonderful opportunity to share incredible wisdom and strategies and new solutions at this time of life when people are really needing that essential hope. So it's a time of bolstering all of that up. So if you can think of anybody, obviously you'll get all the links and everything that you need. Anybody, you know, families, it doesn't matter. It's for everyone.
So we'll be providing you all with information that you can use either on social media or through your email systems, with links that can go out to individuals and organizations, inviting them to participate. If any of you as individuals within cities wish to participate, there is an affiliate program, and people that you recommend or that are on the list of people in your city that watch or benefit who decide to purchase upgrades, then 50% of that upgrade will come back to you to help you in your city do things that you want to do.
Just need to let us know. Was there somebody asking a question? Oh, I thought I heard something.
No.
You might have heard me. I had my mic off. But I was trying to say, we'll be getting out a newsletter specifically to give lots of explanation behind Age Nation. We'll have a link on our own website, but I know that Sadina and George have been working on their website, but it's still available for you to peruse. I put some of the links already in the chat so that people can download that before you leave this meeting.
Thank you, Marilyn. Yeah, and our website right now is acting sort of as a landing page while we populate there's literally over 60 presenters right now. So you'll be excited. It's something that we hope you enjoy and take in and learn from and share as much as you can.
And when we're finished, we're going to be giving Marilyn the link to a Vimeo in which a lot of the various authors and experts who are already participating invite people around the world to join them as part of this event. We can truly make this something extraordinary, something that can be an annual thing that people look forward to, that can benefit people who are doing great work around the world, as each of you is. And that's the spirit we approach it with. It is entirely a nonprofit event. So the only funds that are raised, that are used for production, cover the costs of creating the event, and all of the revenue that comes in will flow through the nonprofits to other organizations that are doing great work.
So join us.
Great, thank you so much for that. And I just reposted for people who came in late, the 2 links that you can go to learn a little bit more. If you could indulge us for just a little bit more, and then we'll open it up for questions. I know that so many of you indicated that you were new to the chat, and that's truly wonderful. And one of the things that I'd like to do is to share something that I shared with our board of directors last week. And I usually meet with them once a month and give them an overview of where we've been and where we're going. And I know I've already talked a little bit about this, so I'll make it quick. But just so that you get an idea of what is going on with the Charter for Compassion on a monthly basis. And I mentioned that we had the 40 Days Legacy of Martin Luther King, which is truly a global event. We also participated in the UN Interfaith Harmony Week for 7 days, and Merida, who's here, is the person who kind of combined and pulled together and edited everything. One thing that we'll try and make available to you, if you'd like, it's going to have to go in the cloud when we send the email to you, but we just finished our impact report, which gives you a truly good overview of what happened in 2022. The thing that we'll be doing on April 5th is a launch of a brand new portion of our website called Compassionate Kids Powered by Golden Ruleism. And we're excited to make this available on an international basis. And there's 2 entry points. One is for parents only, and the other is for kids only. And the parents get a chance to look at what's going on globally around raising kids, and kids find out what's going on globally about how they can educate themselves. So we're excited about that. In the end of April, we're going to be involved with the Global Compassion Coalition, and that is to launch something called Network Relationships. And it originally comes out of the thinking and work of 2 individuals, Julian Abel, who's been a great friend to the Charter. Julian is a medical doctor who is very much involved in palliative care. He's from the UK, lives in Cornwall. And the second person, and I apologize for not having his name here, is Cormac Russell. And he's an Irishman who happens to be teaching in the US in DePaul in Chicago. And Cormac says we should pay attention to our neighbors 6 doors in either direction, because by showing compassion and kindness to these individuals means that they in turn will do the same thing. It's kind of a snowball effect. And before you know it, that this network of true compassion and kindness really can bring about the spider web that you see in front of us. There'll be lots of activities and additional information around that. In May, you just heard about Age Nation. This is just like a little bit of a glimpse of what I took off of the website, so that you can go there and get a lot more information. Here's the biggie. In June, and you'll find out about this in May through Age Nation, but in June, there's going to be the launch of Compassionate USA. And Compassionate USA is going to be launched at the Mayor's Conference, the US Mayor's Conference, on June 2nd. And the idea is that there will be a lot of resources available, short videos, materials at the ready for organizations as well as for compassionate communities that address these 6 areas of interest, to begin to understand how is it that you can work with systems that might not necessarily be compassionate, but how can you tread the waters and then ruffle the waters and then calm the waters in order to make that system more compassionate. It's a look at what George had mentioned about the pandemic, the trauma that we all are living in, not only because of the pandemic, but what's happening worldwide. It's really difficult to ignore it. And then to look at the thread of common humanity, the ways that we can interface face with others, for compassion for others, becoming how to use our emotional awareness, and leading towards self-compassion. So that's going to be a launch, but it's going to be a dashboard of resources that are going to be available to everyone. Right now, it's starting out on an independent website, but it'll make its way to the charter within the next month or so. The other thing is that the Parliament of World Religions is happening in Chicago in August. That's usually a gathering of about 10,000 people. But prior to the Parliament, of which the charter is a sponsor, we will have 2 online programs that either people who will be going to the Parliament, who wish they could be going to the Parliament, can participate in. One is Pro-Social Spirituality. It's based on the work of Brother Wayne Teasdale from his own book. And I am spacing on it right now, but it'll come back when we're finished today. And then Crossing Borders, which is really an exciting program. Originally started for youth, but now can involve small groups of people in a community to really get to know one another, learn how to dialogue with one another, and consequently to bring about some change within a community. The Parliament itself, I mentioned that we're very involved. We have 24 workshops over the 4 or 5 days that it will happen, 2 interactive programs that you just saw, the launch of a new film called Ubuntu, looking at some of the theory of indigenous people on the continent of Africa and how that thinking and that way of acting in kindness and compassion towards one another can really make a difference for future generations. And then we have a wonderful banquet on the 16th that we will be giving out, this is the 6th time, our humanitarian awards. And to very deserving people. The other thing just to be aware of, every single month we have the Global Read. We mentioned already several times that we've had Jacqueline Winspear in the past. We have coming up in May, Gillian Anderson and Jennifer Nadel, their book, We, a Manifesto for Women Everywhere. You might recognize both of those women. Jennifer is a person who is now one of the directors of the Global Compassion Council. She is one of the founders of Compassion in Politics in the UK. Gillian is an actress who probably is best known for the X-Files and playing Eleanor Roosevelt in the series on women. I can't remember the name of the series, but just recent, of the wives of presidents. Connected Community, this is Cormac Russell, the person who has come up with the theory of the 6 doors, and a wonderful friend to the charter, Dasher Kiltner, who is the director of the Greater Good Science Center at the University of California in Berkeley. Incredible book. And Dasher is most noted for the fact that he has looked at in great detail and research the writings of Darwin, and has given the phrase the survival of the kindest, because that's what Darwin was really talking about. And Dasher has also done some wonderful YouTube presentations on kindness, and I would really highly recommend that you go and take a look at them. Okay, so now that you have received a fire hose of information, let's see if you have any questions. Oh, please have a question.
Okay, so these meetings happen monthly where you give updates and share resources. Is that correct?
That is
So
correct.
once we've been to a meeting, we're now on your email list. Is that the other?
Yeah, I think so. You're probably on our email list if you found out about the meeting. I'm not sure, but yes, sometimes we do check to see who came to these meetings against our master database list. Yeah, and it's also a great time. You know, I'm kind of excited to find out about in the program. Who was it that indicated like dealing and conversing with your neighbors with differences? I think that sounds like something really exciting that we would like to know more about, and how we might maybe offer that through the charter. So it's a great time.
Meetings, it's called Meetings of Opposites.
Meetings of opposite, yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be great. The
Great,
other,
man. Please invite me somewhere and I'll give you a preview of it, or send me an email, anybody, and I have a little short video that I made of it.
okay, great. We would love to do that. We have in the past had a facilitation program with living room conversations, which was the follow-up to Move On, where people, come to a living room with maybe different ideas and parameters of thinking, but it's a way to facilitate a conversation. So I'd love to keep going with that kind of invitation to people.
Great, thanks. And just a question about that. Is anybody on here a conservative? Is anybody on here vote Republican, or are we all in the blue category?
Well, here's what could happen if people don't want to admit to it, and not that admission is, any big deal, but you could go and just send a private response to the question, and then you would have the answer.
Well, I presume the answer is that there's not many of us, and I have never voted for a Republican except for John Kasich myself. But I'm, of course, what I'm doing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think maybe your mic went off. I'm not positive, but we lost you.
Yeah, I was holding the space bar down, and it sometimes works and sometimes doesn't. My work requires me to engage and enroll conservatives. So, and that's been an ongoing issue for the bridging field.
Mm-hmm. I was going to real quickly share something that all of you could participate in, and that is our map of co-creators, because, this is hopefully the charter's gift to the world. We don't want to own it. We just started it. It lives on our site. But the idea is that you go to register on the map. We launched this in September. And the basis of this is the operational system of the charter with the 12 areas of interest. And you can register. And the thing that's amazing is that question that just was asked. You could go and find people. We have a wonderful filter here, and you can look down at governance and community. And I can check and find out, who in this group is interested in that. And then what you might do is to say, okay, like here's somebody, Dr. Frances Scully. I have no idea who that person is, but she has a secondary interest. And you can go through this. And the minute that you select somebody, like here's Nancy. Nancy's interested in human rights as a primary interest. And let's say I select her, then you can see up here in the navigation bar, send an invitation. So I can select a bunch of people and I can send them a question. Like I'm doing a project, I'm looking for people who are conservative in their political thought. I'd really like for you to participate. You can be as specific as you want. And the idea here is that, you know, make this map your own. If you're coming from an organization, get out the map so that people, it'll take millions of people on the map, and you can go down to your very neighborhood street and find people who might have similar interests, or that you have a project. So just something to consider. Ernst.
Marilyn, if I may, Henry, I've been doing for the last couple of years a series on Humanity Rising that is called the Democracy Dialogues. And we periodically invite some really interesting individuals who either are or have been conservative. If you reach out to me, I'll make some connections for you and be happy to help you begin a dialogue with them.
Thanks, George. My email is in the chat somewhere.
It's towards the end here, so I think, or maybe not. No, I think it's, yeah. So don't forget to download the email for people who are on here.
No, that's not it.
And so I can send you like this little video.
Great.
And if you're saying, Marilyn, that I should
let's have a separate conversation, figure out exactly what to do. I think taking George up on his offer. I think you have a
the map or
There's
the
a-
map of the participants.
Yeah, I think we can do this offline because I think your signal right now is a little weak, and so
Yes, I'm out here in the country and it's weak. Sorry.
I understand that, of being in the country myself. Ernst, go ahead, please.
Well, I guess not relevant to my question first. One of the things that I've always found entertaining and educational was, I don't know how many people remember the Fred Friendly seminars, where people used to watch them, but Justice Scalia would often make appearances on those seminars, and hearing him work through the hypothetical case studies along with people of vastly different political stripes was always very entertaining, to say the least. So, yeah, they say if you want to have a good idea, it's important to get a lot of ideas, which does bring me to my question, which is, it seems like facilitation is a large thread in the work that many of us are doing. So my question is there a separate space for facilitators? Is there a group of facilitators, moderators that get together?
You know, one of the things that we have had and hopefully will continue is a course called Compassion Integrity Training. The people who have gone on to become facilitators in Compassion Integrity Training do meet on a regular basis. That's the closest thing that we have. The other close thing that we have is actually the work that we're doing relative to specific programs, so that with Crossing Borders, we have small groups of 12 people who come together. We also participate in something called Circles of Trust, and those also are small groups of people, and they remain and they determine how frequently they want to meet. So we do have those.
Okay, so it sounds to me like there's one part of it that maybe you were speaking in the past tense, that's not happening anymore, but it may happen in the future. And then otherwise, these other organizations I could look for on the map.
No, well, yeah, you can go to the map and you can start your own conversation. That's a really good idea. The Compassion Integrity Training we're hoping to offer probably in June. So it will start up again. Yeah. Christine.
Hi, sorry, I was figuring out where my mute button was. Just on the topic we were talking about of having conversations with people on different spectrums of political stuff. I'm reading a book right now that I thought I would recommend because it's kind of in that spectrum. It's called I Never Thought of It That Way by Monica Guzman. It's how to have fearlessly curious conversations in dangerously divided times. So it's just great with this topic. I'm really enjoying it so far, and I thought I'd share it.
Great, thank you for that. We might track down Monica and see if she would like to participate in a global read. But first,
Yeah, so she might be a good person to talk to. She's also part of something called Braver Angels, which is dedicated to trying to bridge the divide. So you may have heard of that before, I'm not sure, but yeah.
I've been a part of Braver Angels for a few years. And one thing that's going on there, in my experience, is they have a whole bunch of liberals and very few conservatives coming into this conversation. And I think that's the case all around, that conservatives tend to be less open to having conversations.
good. Yeah, well, I think that's true. And whatever we can do, to populate that map and to find groups that would really be willing to have these kinds of conversations, which are so darn important. Because I mean, one thing that Cormac talks about, and I think I have really experienced, I've only been in my neighborhood now, it's not a neighborhood, it's a road, for 2 years, is the fact that, nobody talks politics, which is kind of strange because I came from a place where everyone talked and did politics. But here, it's almost like acts of kindness. And so that, you give, so that if you're planting something in your garden and you have an overabundance, you just put it out by the road. You don't even say, do you want it? You just put it there, take it, And, we heard the other day that one of our neighbors' husband wasn't well. So we brought flowers, and the next morning we got a breakfast of fresh, warm muffins. And so, it's like, the 6 doors away from you is so important, because eventually you might be able to talk about those difficult things that are really important. But at the same time, if you start just being kind to one another, and, we look at compassion as kindness, and it's an action, it's a verb. Thich Nhat Hanh said it's a verb. And so, compassion, the act itself is kindness. So I think it's a way to start. And Renee, reminded us it's difficult to start. Where do you start? And that might be it. Aveen, welcome. Your hand is up. You're going to hear a big Scottish accent right now, right?
Yes, you need a good Scottish accent today. Just in relation to that book about I Never Thought of It That Way, I thought you might be interested in, there's a book, The Way Out, How to Overcome Toxic Polarization by Peter T. Coleman from Columbia University. And so I was on a webinar recently about that, and that was talking about the whole political situation and describing where we're at the moment as very similar to just before the Civil War. And he talks about the need for there to be 3 conditions to be met until people get so sick of everything that they actually will activate towards a solution. And that was that people are so fed up with it, they're exhausted by the whole situation. And then number 2 was society has to be destabilized sufficiently that we need, I think it's called punctuated equilibrium theory. And then the 3rd one is about ripeness theory, and that's the ability to see a way out of it. So that might be something that people might be interested in looking at in terms of the polarization in the country, and especially politically, and not being able to talk to your neighbor here because of this polarization, and everyone just digs in. I am at that stage where it makes you ill just to be living in that environment. So it would be interesting to continue that conversation in some way.
I mean, would you mind putting down the name of the book and the author? I
will.
I get it. We're out of time right now, but this has been really, they're always informative, these gatherings, and please think about joining us in the next round in a month or so. And I wanted to go back to what I experienced a couple hours ago in Pomona at the Compassionate Pomona meeting with the mayor. He's been involved in a project from Bloomberg, and there's a model there that I'm hoping that maybe we can talk to him to come and do a webinar, because it really reflects what you were just talking about, Eileen, that it helps us focus on one area where we can really work together to define a problem, similar to what Karen Armstrong said. You deal with that grave problem, there's a theory of working through to define it. And then there are just a few steps. But I think that almost all of us will agree with you that we are on the tipping point here, and that we are looking for some solutions. Thank you all for participating today. Merida will follow up by sending a recording and some other material. I'll send you a little in that grouping, some additional information on Compassionate USA. And then when we have more information on Age Nation, we'll make certain that you get that, and we'll see you in a month or so. Take care.
Nice to meet everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Take good care.
Thank you. Bye.